Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Sharona Bollinger with the MIT Leaders for Global Operations and Missions team. I'm joined today by my colleague Pam Searle and our amazing alumni panel, who I will introduce in a bit. I'm just going to give a brief intro to the program for any newcomers or anyone who's this is their first event and they want to kind of get a sense of what LGO is. We are a 24-month dual degree MS MBA program between MIT School of Engineering and Sloan School of Management. We work with 20+ industry partner companies to provide research internships, fellowships, and recruit graduates into high-tech roles. Our graduates have the technical, analytical, and business skills needed to bridge management with technology and to solve global problems. We partner with 7 departments to offer our students a broad range of engineering research areas. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will try to get to as many as we can. So before we introduce our panel, I just wanted to spend a few moments talking about how you can define ROI. There is a lot of literature and general buzz around the return of investment for any kind of graduate program. But it's important to understand what an advanced degree means to you and what you hope to gain from it. So some helpful things to think about are the differences between tangible and intangible benefits, or quantifiable versus qualitative benefits. Tangible can mean job offers, increases in your salary, increase in signing bonuses, or support in starting a new venture. From that perspective, a recent graduating LGO class had about a 66% increase in their annual salary in their new positions after graduating. 96% of the class received a signing bonus, and each graduating student received an average of 2.5 job offers. In considering more qualitative benefits of completing the LGO program, this could include greater confidence to explore new industries or job functions, gain new ways to solve problems and lead, and possibly a new perspective on your future goals. Another way to think about ROI is in terms of short-term and long-term returns. So many of our students find immediate gains from the program, often within the very first semester of the LGO summer core. LGOs are given pretty instant access to a new group of classmates from a variety of professional backgrounds, faculty from both Sloan and the School of Engineering, as well as our industry partner companies and networking events that precede formal recruiting. The guaranteed 6-month internship is another example of exploring new career opportunities while still in the program, as an immersive way to gain experience working at a company or in a project you may have never considered before. So in the long term, your goals may change. Thinking about how an MBA and an MS degree can be an opportunity to pivot in your career or see an increase in your earning power is just as important as thinking about how these degrees allow you to be flexible among multiple functions. All of our students participate in transformational leadership training that helps them understand what kind of leader they are in the workplace and beyond. And with our extensive LGO network of over 1,300 alumni, a potential connection is always close by. Our graduates have shown a commitment to hiring and opening their networks to other LGO grads, and it's a testament to the LGO and MIT Sloan network that 80% of our recent graduates found their first job post-LGO through either the LGO network or Sloan's Career Development Office. We hope that our students not only look at what opportunities present themselves, but what types of possibilities arise with that added perspective and insight. So as we go through this webinar, we encourage you to think about ROI on your own terms, but another way to think about ROI is the opportunities inherent to being an MIT LGO student. So campus resources. Being a part of the MIT community opens countless resources and ways to get involved. And while it takes planning and very careful time management to ensure you're getting involved with everything you want to, there's always something cool to attend or greater learning opportunities beyond the classroom. Some examples that come to mind are the various clubs and conferences around campus that you can participate in, the very strong entrepreneurial culture around MIT and Sloan, the emphasis on interdisciplinary study, that is a core value of LGO, but that you can also seek out around campus, like at the MIT Media Lab. You can register and take classes at other schools in the area, including Harvard Business School. So basically the options are endless, and we hear about them a lot from our students, just being overwhelmed with the amount of choice you have. Experiential learning is a very strong value at MIT. Taking a hands-on approach is how we encourage our students to learn and have impact, both on their own development, but also on the world. So some examples of this would be the Sloan Action Learning Labs, where you work with host organizations to solve real business challenges. Popular labs include A Lab, which is the analytics lab, G Lab, which is the global entrepreneurship lab, and Ops Lab, which is often taught through the LGO program office. I talked a little bit about the LGO network before, but beyond that, LGOs are fully integrated into Sloan and their engineering department, and are part of the MIT network, which is enormous. LGOs get both a small class experience, but you are still within a Sloan class of around 400 students, as well as the broader MIT graduate and research community. Lastly, there are a lot of avenues for professional development around the school and within the LGO program. I mentioned Sloan's Career Development Office earlier, but also wanted to highlight the LGO partner companies, who are kind of the third ring in our trifecta of business, engineering, and industry. Our partner companies contribute a lot of these opportunities to our students, including funding the LGO Fellowship, which is granted to every admitted student, opening their facilities up for plant treks and tours, hosting our internships, participating in networking events, and actively recruiting from our program. So on that note, now that you have some parameters for what ROI can be, and especially what LGO ROI has been, let's kick it off with our very talented panel of alumni. I'm excited to have them talk about their process, thoughts on return of investment, and why they chose the LGO program. Before I have them introduce themselves, we encourage you to use the Q&A box to ask questions, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. So let's start with Casey. Please introduce yourself, where you work, and why you chose the LGO program.
Hi, so I'm Casey Boyle. I just recently graduated this May. I came to the LGO program from the aerospace industry, and I really like things that fly, things that float in space. Reason for coming in was I kind of wanted to keep that marriage between the technical as well as get a new foundation in business. Right now, I'm back in the aerospace industry working under Ascent Aerospace. So they make tools for all the big primes. And it's awesome because it's underneath it's a portfolio company from one of our LGO partner companies, AIP. So it's a completely different shift of what I was doing before grad school, which is what I wanted, a lot of responsibility right off the gate. And I'm enjoying the job so far. I've been here for almost 2 months now.
Great, thank you. Jason?
Yeah, I'm Jason Trouten. I'm in LGO 2019. I originally joined LGO because my background and my career interest is in technology entrepreneurship. And so similar to what Casey was saying, it was that marriage of technology and business that really initially attracted me to LGO. I actually initially, had very little knowledge of or specific interest in operations management, which is, sometimes seen as like the classic, LGO career path. But to me, that was just like a side thing. And then after graduating, joined a startup in Kendall Square in Cambridge. That's a software startup. I joined in a product management role, but then, as seems to happen with a lot of LGOs, quickly found myself in a more operational role, and now I'm as you can see on the screen, Chief Operating Officer at that company. So yeah, so for me, it was the combo technology and business that really sold it to me.
Great, thank you. Alex?
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Kaplan, LGO 18, and until tomorrow, I'm a consultant at Bain & Company, and then I'm starting a new role on Monday with Ginkgo Bioworks. I'm going to be working on COVID testing and spinning up their testing technology services. So really excited to be shifting into a more operational role, as you'll hear about throughout this. I decided to come to LGO because I got my start in Anheuser-Busch working on the production floor in manufacturing, and really wanted to keep my mechanical engineering background, but also get a broader understanding of what was driving business decisions. And I thought LGO was just a perfect place to go do that. And really excited to talk to you guys today.
Great. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm gonna stop sharing so that we can see everyone's full camera view. So we have a couple of questions lined up, and then we'll open it up to audience questions through the Q&A. But I wanted to start with, how did you define ROI coming into grad school, and how has that changed, both during and after LGO, but also as an alum of the program?
I'm happy to start here. So coming into grad school, I had a really rudimentary Excel with like, what is this going to cost me, and can I afford to do it? And when I come out on the other side, am I going to be broken? And LGO was, they have the fellowship aspect. And so it was a really important part of my early calculation of what ROI and what value I'd get out of the program. I think coming out on the other side, I think everything you said, Sharona, about, the dollars and cents of it, I was right in that average there of like 60% boost in salary. And when you put the numbers to it, it has turned out to be a great ROI. But I think one of the most amazing things I've taken away has been just this really tight-knit group of relationships from my LGO class in particular. We currently right now we're having monthly COVID webinars where we talk to each other and we hang out to keep each other going and talk about things that are hard and things that are great. And so like those relationships, you can't put a price on, but it has been one of the best things coming out of the program. And I think, just the continued alumni benefits. We just also had a COVID webinar where we talked to faculty and people in industry and how they're adapting to these times. And so those resources, as they go on, I can see them pulling those into my career as I move forward.
Yeah, so when I was making the decision about LGO, as you mentioned earlier, there's sort of the tangible piece and the intangible piece. And for me, when it came to the tangible ROI, I didn't bother trying to, I'm not managing a hedge fund here. I'm not trying to just objectively pick what's going to get me to the biggest dollar amount, because that wasn't my goal. For me, when it came to the tangible piece, it was a question of, is this going to, just bury me in debt? Is it going to delay other life things that I want to do? And so, after having some discussions with current LGOs, you realize like, you're not going to have trouble paying off the loans. It might take some time, but you're not going to get trapped. You're not going to get stuck. And so for me, that was enough to satisfy me on the tangible side. And then what really sold me was the intangible benefits and, the stuff that is just so hard to put a dollar amount on. And so I had a situation a few months back where it looked like the company I was at looked like is going to go out of business. And so, we've got these LGO WhatsApp groups, and I just sent something out like saying just some joke message about like, oh yeah, I guess who's unemployed. And within probably an hour, I had like 3 messages of, hey, I just sent your information to someone at my company. I think we could have a use for you. Someone else saying, hey, one of our portfolio companies is doing some medical device stuff. I think that you'd be a good fit. One, phone call from someone on her lunch break saying, hey, I know some people in Boston and Providence. And so it's a network that's more than just, knowing people in important positions and knowing people in certain companies. It's a very tight-knit group that's going to support you throughout your career. And that's something that is, like I said, just so hard to put a dollar amount on, and has been much more impactful, I think, to me than whatever percent increase. And I got it. I got that percent increase in salary, but that wasn't as important to me.
Great, thank you. Casey, do you have anything to add as an incredibly recent graduate from the program?
One of my favorite parts about, LGO and being able to pair up with the engineering piece is a lot more scholarships become available, private scholarships become available. So, I got accepted into the program and I saw the delta between the fellowship and the total cost of the program. And I was able to get another $25,000 in private scholarships. So, really leveraging that engineering piece of the LGO puzzle. And that really helped. So I really recommend that, when you're applying and you're seeing that delta, know that other scholarships are out there for you. One of them was from Anheuser-Busch. So, they're all over the place. And I'd say the other kind of short-term ROI is, in the beginning, it was kind of how many job offers are there, or can we expect on average, and that percent increase. But then as soon as you're in the program, I think you get an ROI in confidence too, and seeing, getting some of those unknown unknowns answered. And so I kind of went in thinking, hey, I might be able to get not just to my manager, but my manager's manager, but still very much in the same framework of my original company. As soon as, enough time went by in the program, I was like, whoa, why am I only looking there? Why am I not looking like Jason as COO right now? We are capable people. We can move the needle. I can think more of just than, resting in middle management. So it was cool from that point. I'm working I have the confidence.
Great, good luck. Kind of following up on something you just mentioned, how do you think having the both degrees has impacted your career? So not just the MBA, not just the Masters of Science in Engineering, but having both of them. How have you seen returns on that, and how has it impacted your career? Do you want to start, Jason?
Yeah. So I have maybe a unique perspective on this being, so I'll let the others maybe touch on some on when it comes to their career paths. But for me, starting in product management right out of LGO, and also my whole career has been in entrepreneurship. These are both roles where there's this popular opinion out there of like, this one faction saying, oh, you really need, the technical people to be product managers. Like these MBAs, they don't get it. They don't get the technology. And then you have another faction saying, oh no, you need to have the business people being product managers, because the technical people, they'll make cool technology and then it'll be something that no one actually has any value for. And the same thing could be said about a lot of roles in early stage startups, especially founding roles. Like I would never trust a founder who only has the business knowledge or only has the engineering knowledge. And I don't agree with either of those. Because I know people who are successful entrepreneurs and who are successful product managers who have come cleanly from one bucket or another. But as an LGO, graduating with these 2 degrees from MIT, you end up as this sort of unicorn that people think, doesn't really exist. Someone who actually gets both, who understands both domains. And that ends up, I think, being really valuable. So in my current role, one of the founders, when they were looking for someone to fill the product manager role, said, "Oh no, you won't find somebody who actually knows, you know, medical devices and software and business. And, you know, then as an LGO, you fit into those roles that people think, you know, maybe they don't even exist. And then another thing that I've seen more on the entrepreneurship side, both personally and some of my classmates who ended up going into startups during or after LGO, is a lot of times when you have these technical founders looking for someone to be like the business complement to them, to bring this technology to market, there's something about also being able to get the technology piece that just makes it much easier to work with an LGO in an entrepreneurial venture. And also there's just a level of trust that I found that people are excited to find an LGO to partner with on entrepreneurial ventures. So I think it's been invaluable to me, in both as a product manager and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here. You know, I have been in consulting for the past 2 years, but I'm obviously now transitioning. And throughout this process, as I've been working with companies, that having the engineering degree just kind of sets you apart from other MBAs. And like Jason was saying, especially in these technical companies, just knowing, you know, I mean, I may not be going in to do the mechanical engineering design of something, but I can talk that lingo with the engineers and I can really understand what's going on. And, you know, some of the roles I was looking at were supply chain roles, and they are asking for technical things that I learned in classes, and I can, you know, I can bring that to the table and do those more technical exercises. But I think that you know, I was talking with an energy startup, and even this role that I'm moving to now, there's a deep appreciation for the engineering behind it, and they wanted to know that I could kind of talk the same lingo.
So starting out, you know, now 2 months into my new role, I think the engineering piece has given me a lot more credibility quickly. So, you know, you're trying to get to know everybody and you're sitting down with the other management team. And as soon as you start to sit down with like the engineering management teams, and you're kind of able to say, are these your problem areas? Like we've kind of experienced and been told are the problem areas in some of the other industries that, you know, LGO has, you know, gotten to do plant tours or that kind of thing in. And so you kind of get that relatability, and, you know, like you kind of almost build that first part of the trust. So that's been really, really helpful. And that's really solely been technical. This hasn't been like dollars and cents conversations. These are, why am I project engineer not communicating correctly to the design engineer? And then to build credibility, like on the shop floor right now, like I was listening to like a CNC machine. I just heard this screech kind of thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that someone is, you know, drilling way too quickly. There's just these RPMs are too fast. So I walk over there and say, you know, we might need to slow that drill down a bit. And they're like, oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. So I think that was a good part of credibility, everything from, you know, engineering management to the operators on the floor, you know, running the machines.
Great, thank you. I think this question, I'll start with Casey, just because you're such a recent graduate. What kind of resources available at MIT did you use? This could be in LGO, and in Sloan through the engineering department or the broader institute, but just what resources did you find particularly valuable?
Sure. So a quick one is, so I'm learning disabled, I'm ADHD, and the day before classes started, I had an appointment with the greater MIT like disability office. And one of the things I was really kind of concerned going into LGO or just Sloan in general was, you know, case-based learning. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna actually be able to read that much per night? And they were able to issue me a software that, you know, helps me read faster. And that was really, really awesome. So, and it was so easy. Like, it was just like, here you go, no problem. So that was really neat. I think the resources from the engineering side, like the mechanical engineering department was really close, and they would have like ugly sweater Christmas parties where you got to actually build the ugly sweater and have like, you know, your punch and cookies. And, you know, it's fun being able to talk to all the different engineers or PhDs or master's students over there. And it's all free. Like, it's crazy how much free stuff there is to do to just, just to get the group together. And, you know, at Sloan, I just loved that LGO kind of community. The fact that you had free coffee in the LGO, you know, conference, you know, our main area. Like, not many places at Sloan get that. But, you know, LGO takes care of their own and make sure that we have coffee every morning.
Very important. Alex, I know it's been a little longer for you, but is there anything that like really stands out in your memory as being a valuable resource?
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary resource was, you know, you guys on the LGO admissions team. Everyone, it was just so helpful along the way in planning out the curriculum. And, you know, there's a lot of credits and things you have to, like, expectations you have to meet to graduate. And everyone was really supportive and checking in the whole time to make sure that, you know, you're getting what you need to complete your thesis and you're getting the right classes in your schedule. So that was one of the biggest resources, is really having like that guidance counselor kind of feel there, helping you through the program. And then I really used the Sloan Career Services a lot. So my, you know, job at Bain came through those channels, and they have a lot of, you know, career counselors to help you with your resume and to help you with interviewing. And then I have since used them as well as an alumni. When I, you know, decided I wanted to pursue other opportunities as well, I reached out and, you know, got to talk to a career counselor from Sloan. And that is a huge, amazing resource that I didn't realize, you know, if you don't have access to that from Sloan, you know, that's an expensive resource for a lot of people. And so, you know, I've talked to her several times about updating my LinkedIn and my resume. And then going back to the engineering resources, I had a couple of project-based classes with engineers, and, you know, for our projects, we would pull their research right out of the lab. So I worked with a PhD student who was working on a sensor for electrical meters. And so me and another LGO built kind of the business plan behind this technology, and he kind of brought in the technology part of that and explained, you know, he was more on the electrical side of things, so he explained the technical aspects of the project. But being able to work in conjunction with engineers who are really pulling that cutting edge research out of their labs was really cool as well.
Yeah, I'll real quick add a couple of things, because I agree with everything that Casey and Alex have said. But then also, it sounds silly, but the LGO lounge was actually like a major factor in those 2 years. But then also, I took advantage of the MIT Sandbox Fund, which is just a program to fund pretty much any entrepreneurial project. So I was working on a nonprofit entrepreneurial project during my time at LGO, and got, I think, about $25,000 pretty easily, weirdly easily, through that program to support that project.
Thank you. So I want to ask if each of you could talk a little bit about the LGO leadership coursework. So LGO has kind of a very structured leadership course that students take throughout their 2 years. It starts in the LGO Summer Core, which starts in June every year, and then kind of continues through the 2 years with various checkpoints. And I'm curious to know how lessons you learned in that leadership training, or connections you made in that leadership training, like how has that impacted how you've thought about your career and where your career has gone?
I can start on this one, and I'd start by saying, actually, some of that turns into a little bit of a habit that'll continue beyond LGO. So we had, I mean, just a little impromptu class of 2019, you know, Zoom calls where it's like, hey, let's all talk about how each of our companies is handling, working from home, layoffs, mass layoffs. And it's, we have a group of people going through similar things. Let's crowdsource our thoughts on and strategies around this. And I do think I think the leadership stuff, becomes most apparently valuable after I think you graduate, or even during the internship. It's once you run into your first situation that is just suspiciously similar to something you've heard one of your classmates talk about, and then you're like, oh man, I should probably call up Megan and say, okay, we need a little bit of a refresher on that one story that you told in leadership in 2017. And then I actually also, I helped run the Leading from the Middle class with Lee Haffrey, which I'm biased, but I thought was great. But it's mostly just because so much of that is hearing from your fellow classmates stories of their past careers. And I think that's critical as people are, relatively early in their careers, to be able to assemble and analyze the learnings of all 50 students or all 100 students' careers, and just consolidate that together.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think that the leadership program is just something I gain more and more appreciation for the further out I get. And it was really impactful. I mean, there are a lot of really challenging questions that come up in operations. You're at the crux of meeting what customers want with having to get people to do those things in an effective way. And so, we took case studies from partner companies like Nike that faced a lot of really severe ethical questions in their supply chain in the past, and really tore those issues apart. And so from a business ethics and a leadership standpoint of what's going to go on in business, it was super critical to get exposure to those things that are going to come up in these industries. I think also personally, as part of our thesis work, we're challenged in the leadership curriculum to map out our organizations and map out, what who are influencers in the organization, who do you need to work with, and how do you need to understand how people are interacting. And that was a really important lesson for me, going into my next career choice. And then finally, I think one of the biggest, two things I took from the leadership curriculum was I was in school during the peak of the Me Too movement. And so the women from my class really stepped up, and we talked to Lee Haffrey, who leads the leadership curriculum for LGO, and said, we want to have a class, we want to have a discussion with the men in our class about, they're going out to the workplace as leaders, and we want to talk to them about our perspective. And so we were able to adapt that curriculum for our class and for the times. And I'm sure, Casey, you can probably talk to this with what's been going on and out there today, is that I'm sure that you guys are having relevant conversations as things are coming up in the world. And I'll just share this one other quick story. Jason, you bring up Leading from the Middle. One of the most impactful stories I got from that was a young woman who, had been hanging out with all of her friends or her coworkers as friends, and then, moved into a management position with those same people, and then just trying to transform, what does that look like now? I used to be friends, and now I'm having people report to me. And so these are the kinds of issues that you face right away coming out of a program like this, just given your age and experience. And so it was really helpful, very practical leadership program.
Alex brings up awesome points. Yeah, so the curriculum for the leadership side is definitely flexible, which is awesome. So Alex was on Me Too. We were a lot into the BLM. So we had and inherent biases and biases. So we were able to structure our tail end of our leadership curriculum to really, really tackle those hard. I think from an LGO perspective and on the leadership scene, I was really happy that I went to school full-time versus part-time for that commitment to leadership, to really, embrace be there 100% for those conversations, and all 50 of your classmates are too. And I think another part that makes LGO special is that it is 50 of you for 24 months. So when you're having these leadership conversations, the whole cohort is together, and they are, you know, pinging ideas off of each other. And you're talking about everybody from the operator on the shop floor to the top decision that the CEO is making. So you get the full breadth and depth of, you know, different industries. And I learned so much in those sessions, just being able to really hear from classmates that I would have never thought about that perspective before, but it was so well thought out that, you know, I grew so much from those conversations. So I just give kudos to the LGO community, because I'm sure like class after class, it's the same amazing conversations. I grew a lot.
Yeah, I kind of want to follow that up with another question, kind of shifting gears a little bit to talking about one of the intangible returns is kind of the social life of LGO community and Sloan community. Being a grad student is often like a very social time in people's lives, but I am interested to hear more about the friendships you made and maybe more the social activities you did, clubs, conferences, events that you were involved in, and kind of what your takeaway from that aspect of the program has been.
I'll start, but I'll be quick. So, but it was the first day of class, and to get to know everybody, there's this kind of like, you know, get to know each other bingo kind of game. And the question was, who's never been to Europe? And everybody's looking around the classroom being like, who seriously has not been to Europe in this group? And I was the only hand that, you know, raised. So I became, everybody learned my name really quickly, because I was, you know, I was the only person that could sign off on that little stamp. So before LGO, I never left, you know, North America. And since then, you know, through IPT and just, you know, having an amazing international community of friends now through the LGO program, that, you know, it's been fun to get overseas and explore and feel comfortable and safe knowing that you're doing it with these well-seasoned travelers. So I thought that part of it was awesome, and I had a blast. They're amazing friends.
Yeah, I can't speak enough to the friendships that I gained through LGO. My internship was in Germany, so I lived in Frankfurt for about 7 months. And when I was over there, there was one other person with me in Germany the whole time, in a different city, but still there. And then someone else on a different rotation for internship, 2 other girls in Europe. And we all 4 of us just had an amazing time. There was like not a single weekend that I didn't see someone from LGO over there, and we got to travel together. And one of those girls ended up being a bridesmaid in my wedding. Like, you just really make these really fast, really deep friendships. And the thing that's great is you're paired into these groups over the summer when it's just LGOs in the first semester, and you have this core team of people and you get to know them really well, and you're working on your case studies with them, all your homework assignments and your projects. And so you have this little pod that's, you know, tight knit, that you're getting to work on the academic stuff with and get to know really well. And then you kind of bubble out into the whole LGO class, and then you bubble out into all of Sloan once those people arrive. And I think, you know, the clubs and activities, I was a co-chair of I was a co-chair of the domestic plant track committee. And so got to work really closely on planning our domestic plant track, where we go around and we visit 10 partner companies across the US. And, you know, for that, we had a, you know, committee of 10 people, everyone took a company, and got to know each other really well through that program. So we're not only doing something really helpful for the whole class, but we're getting to know each other really well as well. And then the Sloan side, I was a co-president of the microbrew club. So that was just pure fun.
Yeah, I won't take up more time since we have a lot of questions, but I'll just echo that, like it or not, you're going to become very close friends with everyone in LGO. Sloan, it's not hard to become friends with everybody, and then your engineering departments, it's if you want to, you will. So I wouldn't worry.
I'm sure that's reassuring to a lot of our attendees. So now I'm going to open it up to audience questions. So my colleague Pam is going to pick a couple to ask our panel.
Great. So we'll start with what was the biggest challenge of going through the LGO program? Were there any balancing difficulties between the two degrees?
Yeah, so I would, and this is the advice that you'll get and everyone will get and some people will ignore when it comes to balancing is this might vary by department, but almost without fail, the engineering classes are going to be much more time consuming than the Sloan classes. Don't take 3 at once. Just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the challenge is there's a little challenge with timing. So depending on when you go on internship, you have to be kind of careful with what classes you want to take and kind of plan in advance for that. I just wish I had more time because I wanted to do more. There was like so many classes that sounded so interesting that I just wish there were just more calendar hours or like more hours in the day so I could fit it all in. You know, it's a pretty jam-packed schedule. It's a busy 2 years, but there's time for fun and there's time for socializing. But you just want to absorb everything you can from the MIT community.
For me, I'll add Thesis was a very rewarding experience, but it's also a very isolating experience. So, you know, to be doing that critical thinking, you know, in partnership with your advisors, and know that when the internship is over, that you have this, you know, big project to tackle in front of you. But it's like that persistence, and there's lots of different styles to complete it. But you know, to find that balance on a Friday afternoon, that after you've completed your kind of coursework for the week, to know that you got to go in, dig in, and do some, you know, couple pages of writing. It's definitely an added twist to the LGO program, but it's very rewarding too once it's all complete.
I guess Casey didn't get the advice to write it as you go.
I did not. I failed at that part.
So Alex mentioned that there's just so many great classes to take. So what were some of your favorite LGO classes and why?
All right, I'm going to say ops management. Professor Sean Willems is just a forever favorite. Every single class loves him. It's one of the core classes of LGO curriculum, and he is just such an engaging professor. So I think that's a favorite across the board for a lot of people. I also took a logistics systems class that was an engineering class and very analysis driven on inventory and logistics systems that I found very engaging. And one of my engineering classes was also solving for carbon neutrality at MIT. So we got to help draft MIT's 2080 carbon neutrality plan. So that was really cool. Ops strategy and management of services as well with Zane Upton, just really great class.
Yeah, I'll echo what Alex said about Sean's class, ops management, easily my favorite core LGO class. And then in Sloan, I took innovation strategy, which I really liked just as someone in entrepreneurship and product development was a really cool one. And then kind of an odd one in engineering, I took quantitative systems physiology. I got to perform surgery on a rabbit, which I didn't think I'd ever do, but that was a very unusual and exciting class.
My two favorite on the business side was comms. So being able to have like being with your entire Sloan cohort and do the communications class was awesome. I also really enjoyed my pricing class. So before that, I was like, oh, it takes me $10 to manufacture this part. I'll charge 15. But then to kind of dig in deep and kind of say, oh, wow, there's all these other things that we can think about when we're doing pricing. On the engineering side, there was a class called 2.810, which is, an intro to manufacturing. And we had an all LGO team of 6 people, and we had to build 6 cars and race them around the track. And that one was just a really fun class, just having the camaraderie of everybody kind of coming together. And so when we did that ugly sweater party thing for the Christmas, we were actually designing our team sweaters that we were going to wear to the race. So it was just so much fun. Those are my favorite.
Great. So how much did your technical skills grow in the LGO program? And are you using those technical skills as much as your business MBA degree currently?
I think my technical skills grew a lot. I had somehow managed to get to graduate school without taking like statistics and probability. And so just even having exposure to that, by the end of my thesis, I was running statistical analysis on my experiments that I was running. And so those were very tangible skills. And a lot of the more Excel-based stuff I've been using in consulting. But yeah, as a consultant, I haven't used like mechanical engineering design stuff. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so I even though my LGO master's was mechanical engineering, I really did a lot more software during LGO than I'd done in my past career. And even my internship was pretty software heavy. And so then that actually became really important, since right after LGO, I made the switch from hardware to software. And I think that would have been really rough without, being able to gain some of that breadth of technical knowledge during LGO. And then, I'm not writing software in my current role, but there's a lot more technical communication, and like what Casey mentioned earlier, being able to work with and understand the people doing, full-time technical stuff is critical for some of these post-LGO roles.
Yeah, second that 100%. Being able to understand, and analytics comes in a lot of different ways, or just being able to process data in whatever form it is. And it could be, how many computers do I need to buy for our staffing plan? Some people just want to say, oh, I guess we'll get 10 without thinking about it. But, an LGO is actually going to pull up an Excel sheet and kind of do a little bit more, accounting than that. So, that it's cool. So I think I use numbers a lot. I'm not afraid of trying to dig for numbers, even if they're just assumptions.
Great. If you were to redo any part of your LGO experience, how and what would you do differently now that you're through it?
I think I would have, I keep saying, like, if there were more time, I would have wanted to do more. I think that there was a class, Analytics Edge, that I've actually gone back and taken a look at through the MIT Open courseware. And so I kind of wish I had done that live in Sloan. And so like some of those more like data analytics classes, I think one of the advantages of being at MIT, it is very rigorous on the analytics. And so I think that I would have wanted to push that a little bit more real time if I had more time.
I should have taken finance. It's one of those like highly encouraged classes that didn't sound fun, so I didn't do it. And so I've found myself asking for the notes after graduating and teaching myself because I needed it.
For me, it's that right when you get to LGO and you're told like grades don't matter, you've done the hard part, you've gotten into the program. But that first summer is probably some of the most time you still have. And so, but I would be, kind of still locking myself away in a room trying to, get more Python scripts done or do this other thing. And everybody else is out there knowing how to have a good time. And, I wish I, learned that a little earlier on versus, more in the second year.
Great. So how well do you get to know LGOs outside of your cohort? So when you're a first year, getting to know the second years, and also just getting to know alumni.
Yeah, I mean, I had classes with Jason. I think the leading from the middle class you put together, and I was an attendee in that class. The class above me, that gets a little mixed up because of internships, but when I was on campus, there were you have a lounge area, and so you all kind of hang out in that one area, and that's the class above you or below you, depending on your year. They're all kind of hanging out doing homework in that area a lot of times. And then we do a lot of traveling together. So we had international plant trek is, every spring break, I think you go to a different country and you do the same thing you did on domestic plant trek, where you visit a bunch of manufacturing sites and partner companies. And that's 2 classes combined. So domestic plant trek is just your class, but international overlaps the class. So my class, my first year, we went to China and Shanghai and Singapore. And then second year, I didn't go, but they went to Brazil with Jason's class, I believe. So there is some overlap, and you definitely build some really great, strong relationships. A lot of times those are the people who graduate before you are the ones who come back and start to do the recruiting again the next year, particularly for the partner companies. So you get to know them pretty well.
So I would wave to Jason probably once every 2 weeks walking into Sloan. So that was kind of fun. Our paths crossed a little bit first year, but second year, you recognize each other, and you're on the same wavelength. I think the LGO community is really close, and one of the most fun ways to kind of get to know the other alumni is through the recruiting process. So it's a lot of the alumni that come back, and so you're talking to everybody from like a Jeff Wilkie to a Steve Cook to just a Brent Yoder, like all these folks that have just impacted the way that I wanted to kind of go into recruiting and get advice from. I'm working with an LGO 17. He also works at Ascent. We have an LGO intern that's at Ascent right now. So the LGO community is a giving one, and it's also one that it's already vetted, so the people are good, and you can have a conversation with anyone.
Yeah, I'd say within your class, I mean, you're going to become great friends with everybody. A class above, a class below, you'll at least know probably all of them, and especially the ones, depending on when you do your internship, you might see more of the class before you or the class after you. I did mine locally and then stayed in town and walked past Sloan on my way to work every day. So I think I ran into a lot of both of the classes. And then outside of one class above and below, it's sort of a la carte. It's as it's relevant to your career. People will be like, oh, you do medical devices? Talk to this guy over here at Boston Scientific.
We'll pop back in and say the alumni community is super strong. I went to the alumni conference last year, and like you said, Casey, Jeff Wilkie was there introducing us, like welcoming us to Amazon as a former LGOer. And there's online forums where people from non-partner companies are posting jobs and looking for LGOs within our community. And so I think that the alumni aspect of this is much stronger outcome than I ever anticipated going into the program.
Okay, so I think we're going to start to wrap up. I just want to thank our panel for joining us today. You've all been amazing, and I feel like I've learned a lot about LGO today as well. And I want to thank all our attendees. I hope this session was helpful. in thinking more about your graduate school plan. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to share our contact info, so please reach out to lgo@mit.edu. Check out our website. We have more upcoming events, so please sign up for those. And thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.